Replacing a background is a great way to improve a photo's composition or add a creative style in Photoshop. Begin by making sure you have the correct layer active, then tap on Select Area in the toolbar below. With Tap Select enabled, tap on the subject, then apply the changes with the check mark. Next, select Apply as Mask. The mask controls visibility of areas on the layer. In this case, it blocks out everything but the subject. To import a new background from your phone, select the Add Image icon, then Add from Photos. Reorder the layer stack by selecting Layer Properties and moving the background layer to the bottom. Adjustment layers in Photoshop let you change lighting, color, and many other important qualities of an image. You can also easily limit your adjustments to only a certain part. For example, let's say we want to change the color of this woman's jacket. With the jacket selected, we can move the hue and saturation sliders until the color is yellow instead of orange. Making these edits on separate adjustment layers gives you so much flexibility. If you decide you prefer the original color of the jacket, you can always go to the Layer Properties and hide the change we've just made. Go ahead and give it a try. If you can imagine it, you can add it to your image using Generative Fill in Photoshop. Let's make this image more festive with some playful bubbles. We'll start by selecting the part of the image we'd like to change. In the Select area of the toolbar, choose the Lasso tool and isolate the area to the left and right of the woman. You can include some of her shirt and overalls. Apply the changes with the check mark. Next, select the Generative Fill icon, and in the text prompt area, type floating bubbles or anything else you'd like to experiment with. Tap on Generate and wait for the magic to happen. Wow! You can see the results on the canvas or choose your favorite version by selecting the corresponding thumbnail below. From here, you can try a different prompt or see more variations on your current prompt by tapping More. With Generative Fill in Photoshop, the possibilities are endless. Let's remove some of the distracting items on the table in this restaurant scene. Using the Lasso tool from the Select area of the toolbar, draw a selection loosely around the glass of orange juice. Now don't be precise. Selecting some of the surrounding area will give you a better result and seamless blending. Apply the changes with the check mark, then choose Generative Fill in the toolbar below. When you remove something from an image, it's the pixels in and around the selection that inform what gets generated. So leave the text prompt blank and tap the Generate button. Wait a few moments and check out the results. It's magic, right? You can keep what you have or tap on the thumbnail of each variation to find the best result. If you want even more to choose from, select the More button to generate 3 more variations. When you're done, apply the changes with the check mark. The fill you just made is now on a layer above the original image, which has not been touched. You can toggle it on or off in the Layer Properties by tapping on the visibility icon.
Let's talk about layers. In Photoshop, you can quickly separate elements into different layers. Since each one becomes its own thing, you can edit, organize, and experiment with each layer without affecting your original image. I've already built this dreamy scene with lots of layers, so let's break it down and just start with the first 3. Now I'm going to tap Layer Properties. From here, you can make the most popular changes like moving layers up and down in the stack and turning visibility on and off. Then, if you tap here, you can see all the options like deleting, duplicating, locking, and more. You can also transform layers by flipping, scaling, and rotating to get everything just right. There are some other really cool ways to edit your image in the Properties panel, and using blend modes is one of my favorites. I want to add some magic to my background, so I'll drop in a rainbow on a new layer and use the color burn effect to blend it into the sky. I also want to add a moon, and this time I'll change the blend mode to screen, which softens it a bit. Now I'm going to add a layer with a boat to bring some depth and movement. I'll use Tap Select to create a mask, leaving just the boat and water visible. The mask stays attached to the boat layer, and you can find it in the Layer Properties and tap the mask if you want to fine-tune what you're showing or hiding. Now I want to play with the color, starting with the butterfly. I'll check to make sure I have the right layer selected because any adjustment I make will be applied to the layer I'm on. Once I select the butterfly, I'll tap the plus sign, which pulls up all the layer types I can add, like color fill, type, and free content from Adobe. But since we're changing the color, I'll select adjustment layer and make a hue and saturation adjustment so the butterfly matches the flowers. You can see the color adjustment becomes its own layer automatically applied to the butterfly's layer. This means only the butterfly is pink. But if you want to apply the color change to the whole image, you can unclip the color adjustment. See how that changes everything? And then if you want to bring the color back into the butterfly, you can just clip it again. Layers make it possible to build anything in Photoshop. And now you can say you did all that on your phone. Masks are a super important part of Photoshop, and once you get the hang of them, you'll notice how useful they are for creating stunning artwork. Applying a mask lets you cover parts of an image, showing a specific section and hiding the rest. Let's quickly walk through how I made this, starting with these birds. The first step is to select the area you want to show. Once you do that, you can confirm your selection with a check mark, and then this moving border appears around the area you selected. Whatever you didn't select will be hidden by the mask, so here we'll see our birds without the sky now that the mask is in place. You can always find and edit your mask in layer properties as you go. And there are lots of ways to refine it by adding or subtracting. I personally love the quick selection brush for this. As you work, the edit mask thumbnail will transform based on the mask you create, with the white area matching what's shown and the black area representing what's hidden to help you visualize. Now that we've covered the basics, I want to pick up this work in progress to show you what else is possible. I start with this photo of Chicago and a layered frame over it. And now I want to add a cool focal point with this underwater ocean image from stock. Let's use Tap Select to hide the beach and sky with a mask so only the ocean is visible. Swiping into layer details, you can disable a mask, enable it, or delete it entirely, leaving the original layer intact. That's what's so great about masks. You can edit without permanently changing. Okay, I'm loving this framed effect, so I'll do the same with clouds and the buildings. All this with masks. I want this to be behind the buildings, so I'll duplicate the layer with the original photo of Chicago and then select the buildings and apply a mask to hide the sky and the water on this layer. That way, I can move the buildings forward in the stack in front of the clouds. This is getting close, but I want to add a hazy effect in front of the buildings, so I'll bring in an isolated cloud layer, also masked so that it fits in the frame, and use a blend mode so the clouds feel seamlessly integrated with the city. You can also apply masks to adjustment layers, which is super cool. Let's say I want to apply a black and white adjustment to the area outside of the frame. First, I'll make a selection of the frame and everything inside of it. Then I'll invert the selection so the area outside of the frame is selected and tap Adjust Area to add the black and white adjustment layer there without affecting the framed section. Masks in Photoshop offer so much flexibility, letting you craft beautiful art one piece at a time. Give it a try and see what you can create. Selection tools in Photoshop are amazing for hiding and editing part of an image without changing the rest. Once you get the hang of selections, you can create just about anything. Okay, I want to make a trippy version of a globe showing Chicago on top of the world. I'm going to start with one of the most common ways to use selection, isolating part of the image. I just want to see the globe, so I'll use Tap Select since it automatically detects different section of an image, so it's the fastest way to select our globe without the background. Now, I want to cut out a curved section from the top of the globe, so I'll toggle to subtract and switch to the ellipse tool. That looks good, so I'll confirm and apply the mask so the top section is hidden. I want to make it look like the ocean continues on top of the globe. So I'll select with the ellipse tool again and apply another mask so we only see this part. So far, I've been able to do all of this just by using basic selection tools to select and hide things. And there are so many more ways you can use selection. For example, you can fill selections with almost anything. I'm going to add an island on top of the ocean, so I'll use the lasso tool to select the area I want the island to go. Then I'll use GenFill to generate some options. This one looks perfect. Okay, now I want to show you some intricate selection techniques that I use all the time. I'm going to pull in my Chicago skyline, but I only need the buildings, so I'll use Tap Select again to isolate them. It's still a bit wide, so I'll go back and subtract using the quick select brush on these buildings on the side so they're hidden in the mask. It's almost there now, but I want to adjust the colors so everything looks seamless. I'll use quick select, and this time I'll sample from all the layers and include the buildings, grass, and globe to create a new selection. Then I'll apply a color balance adjustment to that selection so the color of those elements changes, but the sky isn't affected. Now I'll do a little balancing to make it look perfect. And as a final fun touch, I'll drop in these bubbles. It's so dreamy. Selections in Photoshop give you effortless control so you can make anything, and now it can all be done on your phone.